Imagine this. You're an artist.
Hello.
As you sit down to draw, time passes. You suddenly realize how little progress you've made over such a long time.
Wow, this is going slow. I'm never gonna get this done. Maybe I should just quit and run away, start a new life. I can hide the bodies, book a flight, and live in a rural fishing village in Sweden, and I can spend the rest of my life on the clean Swedish streets begging for change.
Everyone else is drawing so quickly. You blink and suddenly...
There's more art? How are they doing that? How are they drawing so fast?
Well, this actually used to be me. Almost 3 years ago to be exact. And now, I get asked the most by my friends, my classmates, and people online,
Mari! How do you draw fast?
We'll get right back to that, but before we begin, I have a small announcement. I am glad to say I now have YouTube memberships. If you want to use fun emojis, have access to videos early, and have Discord roles, feel free to check those out. My cheapest one is at $3 Canadian, and you can also leave super thanks if you'd like. Back to the video. Yay! And so, hello. My name is Mari. I'm an artist, animator, and mailman. Today we'll be talking about drawing faster, along with my own tips and tricks to do so. First things first, use your references. I think this should be obvious, but it's a lot harder to draw something you know nothing about or don't remember what it looks like without searching it up. References are super helpful and they are really important. For me, I personally struggle to come up with poses on the spot, so looking them up helps a lot. As usual, Pinterest is a great place to gather references. PureRef is good if you want to just grab a bunch of images and put them in one little board. Another great website for stuff like this is Sketchfab. You can rotate everything because they're all 3D models. There's so many things to look at, and it saved my butt a lot when it comes to drawing shoes because it's hard to draw shoes at certain angles. If you're doing fan art or fandom specific work, I think it's best to look up stuff from the actual piece of media or show. For example, let's talk about K-pop Demon Hunters. There's plenty of character sheets, character expressions, or you could also just watch whatever the piece of media is. It'll be super helpful building up your visual library, and it can just be fun to rewatch. And tip number 2 is losing the perfectionism mindset. This isn't easy because I'm also still... it happens to me too. It's not easy to get over it, but a lot of it just comes from trying to just be kinder to yourself and also remembering that you're going to be making tons of art in the future. So even if you mess up a little bit, you have plenty of other chances to improve and grow, and all of it just adds up together. A big part of beating that perfectionism mindset for me personally was also realizing when I needed to step away from my canvas, when I needed to take a break, talk to people, ask for a critique. Overall, just make sure you're taking care of yourself and not getting stressed during the art process because it's not fun if you are. And tip number 3 is to experiment. As the name implies, experiment with your art. Playing around with your art process can be so fun, especially if you're used to doing things in a certain way. This should be low stress. I personally like to do it when I'm doing doodles. That way it's super low stress for me because it's just a doodle. I usually play around by trying to use textures, brushes, even just trying to do things in a different way. This can be simply like doing the line art last. Maybe you're gonna do flats and then colors and render and then line art or no line art at all, etc, etc. It's really fun to look at other artists' process, to try and figure out how they do things. You can even do studies. As long as you're having fun, I think that's the most important part of just drawing, is to make sure that you're having a good time. Which segues perfectly into my next tip. Tip number 4, draw things you enjoy. It makes the process so much more fun. Now, this is definitely going to be dependent on you and who you are, but for me personally, it's really just, I love drawing my characters. I love drawing characters from media. Fan art is really important to me, so I like making a bunch of fan art for media I enjoy. Right now, if you know, I've been obsessed with Just Roll with a Riptide. The amount of art I've pumped out that's Riptide fan art in such a short period is insane and should be studied, but I promise it's been worse. I've drawn so much Goro Akechi and he's been in my head for 5 years, still ongoing. And currently I'm pretty ill about my detective OCs who do have their own video which you can watch, you should check it out, because I just can't stop thinking about them either. Long story short, just drawing things you enjoy makes your process so much more fun. You're being self-indulgent, you get a draw, it's a win-win for everyone, and it's so fun. You need to be doing it. That's what I think everyone should be doing. Anywho, that's my sign to tell you to draw characters you like. Just draw things you like. And next up, tip number 5, time limits and opportunities. Now, I know a lot of us have actual lives, and so we have jobs, school, work, which makes it really hard to actually get time to draw. So this is where opportunities come in. For me personally, I find that whenever I'm transiting, i.e. going on the bus or train, I can get in a little time to draw, be it in my sketchbook or just on my iPad. I get that not everyone wants to, which is completely valid. But if you have any time between breaks, when you're kind of just not really doing anything, using that time to draw helps so much. And it keeps you on a time limit, which means you try and get as much in as you can. Of course, this is totally up to you, and you do not have to do anything I say, but I personally like to draw between breaks, whenever or after I finished eating lunch, or just when I'm really bored and not really sure what else I can do. Drawing with a strict time limit as well helps me get as much as I can down, and worst case, I can always go back and revise it later. I find that doing these kind of doodles or sketches in a sitting really helps me get all these ideas out, and it allows me to relax. Another way I use time limits is actually for commissions. Because I have a strict deadline of when I need to get the art to the client, that gives me some pressure to get it done sooner. You'll see the speed paints for some of the surprise me commissions within this video each have a strict time limit. Some of these commissions I've actually done within a day just because I really locked in and I got the passion to draw, and it's really fun. Last but not least, use your resources. There's plenty of amazing resources out there specifically for artists, and I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice not to use them, especially if they're out there for free. I have so many, and I'd love to make a video one day talking about it, but here are some of my personal favorites. As I mentioned before, PureRef is great for gathering references if you want to put them in a place that isn't like a Pinterest board or have an actual file on your computer. Pinterest is also great. I love using it as an artist. This video isn't sponsored, but I am a Milano glazer. I love using it specifically for organization because I'm kind of a messy person. Character Design Archive for character designs, character design inspiration, Sketchfab for references if you need a 3D visual, very helpful if you're drawing something you're struggling with. Line of Action for poses, anatomy. There's so many anatomy sites out there. There's apps specifically made for anatomy if you want to study muscles, bones, just the human body in general. Also, art books are beyond helpful. I have specifically the Spider-Verse and Arcane one at home. They are my favorites. I should be looking through them more often, which I plan to do. And if you can't afford them or don't have any physical art books, look at your library, and they're also available online. There are a bunch of free art books online, if you know where to look. And if you're struggling with poses, grab some friends because they make perfect reference. If you don't have any friends, I'm sorry. Use yourself as a reference. Animators do it all the time. And of course, looking at other artists' work will help you so much, especially if you plan on studying how they do things, recreating it just for yourself. There's so much to learn about other people's process, copying it, then just recreating or doing your own art based on that, and I think it's really neat. Anywho, that's all my tips for today. Next video will hopefully be a fun little story time I've been wanting to share for a while. And hint hint, it might be Minecraft related. A huge thank you as well to my friend Jonas for voicing the character at the start. I will leave his art account below, you should all go check him out. If you want to leave a super thanks, that's available below. Thank you to Dell for the super thanks and the YouTube membership. I'm also so glad to say that we're almost at 4K, which is still, I know I say it every time, crazy to me. Thank you all for all the love and support, all the fan art, and if you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe. That's all for today. Thank you so much for sticking till the end. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye!